Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. And today we're going to be going over the weekly weather forecasts for the week of November 9th through the 15th. And just want to let everyone know right away, too, that the YouTube channel is now not the only way to hear the blog. I am now officially on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts for the Astrological Winds channel, on both of them as a podcast. So you can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and do a search for the Astrological Winds channel, and you will find me there and get to do just an audio version of the blog, of the live blog here, and the weather forecast each week. So moving forward in the world, and also classes for beginning astrology are officially started now. The first class is available for you getting a download, and I can do that off of Dropbox. So I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, but some changes in the astrological winds world. So if you want to switch over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can do that. Okay, this week there's a lot to talk about. It's what I would call a dense week of astrology going on this week. A lot of planetary activity. So some weeks you see, not as much, or there's, and things are a little bit spread out, and you don't have to. You can kind of focus in on a couple energies, but this week there's just a lot going on. And the three biggest things going on is something I mentioned and spoke about a lot 2 weeks ago on 2 weeks ago's podcast or blog, and that was about the Jupiter, Pluto, Pallas conjunction on the degree of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction early this year in January, and that is going to be exact this week on Thursday. So that's one of the biggest events of the week, and that's combining with Mars finally going direct again, finally moving out of its retrograde phase that it's been in since early September, and pretty much about 10 weeks. Mars has been retrograde in Aries, really has been the trigger of a lot of the intense energy of this autumn, and will continue to be so. So that's a big event this week. And then Mercury is going back into Scorpio too. And then we also have a new moon on Saturday. There's a new moon at 24 degrees Scorpio. So those are the three or four of the bigger events of the week, and there's a bunch of other stuff too. So a lot to talk about. First off, let's go back to the Jupiter-Pluto-Pallas conjunction. And, to get more detail on that, go back 2 weeks to the podcast from 2 weeks ago if you want to hear more about that. But like I said, this is really, when Jupiter and Pluto get together like this, it's kind of like people have the drive to get ahead. And whatever you define that as, it's a time of where you're in a lot of power to push ahead. And it will also see us in situations wherever we have personal power or authority. And everybody does. You might not have the authority of, say, a big boss or a politician or something like that. But everybody has places of authority in their life. So there's like this fork in the road where you have to make a decision to move forward with that energy of ambition that Jupiter and Pluto bring, and then Pallas bringing in, a drive to really satisfy our ideals and what we consider, equality and justice, whatever that may be, at the same time. So like a really big triggering event, but like this fork in the road where when you're in that position of whatever authority or power you're in, are you just using it for yourself and your own gain, or are you trying to bring along everyone else around you? So that's, a really big decision that we're going to make. And Pluto definitely wants everyone along for the ride. If you want Pluto to cooperate with you, it cannot be a self-power driven trip. And if it is, you can expect, literally, you could bring your own, bring your own downfall, bring your own destruction. But for many people, Jupiter, Pluto, and the ambition involved in that is just having a lot to do with, just maybe more money, more power, more authority, a promotion, all that stuff, but somehow you have to bring in others also. So real intense energy, and the exact conjunction is is Thursday, but it really doesn't matter. This is really an aspect that's going to be, it's already in effect, and it will be in effect for a few more weeks, really. And then when you think about Mars and Mercury and their action this week, it kind of starts to blend right into this energy. Mars going direct since, and that's exact on Friday. Since September, a lot of personal blockage to what we really would like to do, what we would really like to act upon, what we would really like to be assertive about, what we're really motivated to do. A lot of blocks. A lot of blocks coming from the way society is because of the square to the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto conjunction. A lot of personal blocks in our life, many of which likely have to do with relationships, people, things that are purging, but also a lot of it having to do with the way we react to things, having to look at our own anger and aggression issues and how we can really hurt ourselves, how we can become too really selfish and self-oriented and kind of lose our sensitivity and empathy for others and damage relationships. So, Mars is going direct now in Aries, and it's really strong in Aries as an individual. As an individual who's acting alone, is seeking an adventure, is seeking something new to excite it, but can be very, very, the assertiveness can easily go over into aggressiveness. The impatience with others can easily turn into anger. The anger can easily be physically manifested as aggressive acts, as violence, as fighting, as arguments, as disagreements. So really intense energy of that going forward, and it's been pent up for 10, 11 weeks now, and it's really just wanting to push forward against everything that's blocking it. And at the same time, on Tuesday, Mercury, which went direct last Tuesday, is now going to go back into Scorpio again, where it had initially been when it turned retrograde, before it went back into Libra, and really started to dig up a lot of the deep stuff in our minds. that block us, that come from our subconscious, that come from our past, that come from our psychological makeup, that may come from pre-verbal times, so like all this stuff coming up, and like deep stuff coming up in relationships, the need to either talk it out or to purge many things in our life, relationships, thoughts, patterns, in order to clear that area to allow in the new. So when you think about all three of these things coming together, it can be a very intense week coming up. I think that people are going to be so like hell-bent, stuck on what that Jupiter-Pluto Pallas is to them, and really try to push their power and authority when they can, and really can make a lot of waves in their personal world. And I think we can see it possibly play out in the social world too, here in the United States. As I predicted last week, the election results were not known for several days afterwards, and the reality is many people are still feeling like it's not a done deal yet, that that it's in question. So this is the kind of energy that can really like feed something like that. Feed like, not all the ideals, not all the things were met. And so I want to see fairness. I want to see balance. I want to see justice. I'm willing to fight for that. I'm willing, go out as an individual, that Aries energy, and maybe act violently, but like really want to push ahead. So like it's a cauldron, these three, where they can really act together and possibly bring up some, aggressive, possibly violent, possibly dangerous situations for both individuals and the collective as to what we decide what we're going to do with this energy. Because there's going to be a lot of people that are feeling, let down, a lot of people that are like, I'm not going to take it, I want to push ahead anyway. Mars is going to feed that, and Mercury in Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars, Scorpio, will be the mind feeding that too, and the propaganda and the coercion. So it's like, wanting to get your way with others, like, and feeling very frustrated with others when you don't get your way with them. And then, where does that go from there? Is it like these covert actions of manipulation, covert actions of propaganda, things like that, with Jupiter there using the law even to try to, do things, and Pluto there using violence and war and destruction. So like really a big fork in the road coming up here for all of us, on our individual lives, but also collectively together, and just a really intense week for that. So the other really big thing is the new moon, but I wanted to just touch on, like I said, it's a dense week. There was some other stuff going on besides the stuff I've mentioned. And on Monday, which is today, that starts with Venus being opposite Mars and the Sun trining Neptune, two completely different aspects, but both very strong. So the Venus opposite Mars is an interesting one. It indicates many times like tension in personal relationships, and especially relationships that are sexual or romantic in nature. So if the relationship is like not on, it's kind of not on solid footing right now, it's gonna probably dissolve into arguments, into battles, into just like anger issues coming up, feeling like you're having to make decisions about things. And a lot of it has to do with basically feeling unfulfilled in the relationship. So it's something to really look at. Now, if the relationship is in good on good solid footing, this is a really stimulating aspect that can, if it's a sexual relationship, can really stimulate the sexual side of the relationship. And if it's not a sexual relationship, it can really stimulate creative energy in relationships. So there's like a lot of creative tension or energy to produce, and it's productive energy too. It's doing energy, especially that Mars, standing still, starting to go direct, really wanting to move forward. Venus in Libra, seeing beautiful shapes and forms and taking those things together and making something creative out of them. So real interesting. And then with the Sun trine Pluto on the same day, it will really feed the creative part of that. Sun trine Neptune, I mean, it gives a lot of rich, imaginative, and inspiring thoughts and ideas. So that can feed that creative energy of the Venus-Mars opposition and get it really, really productive. So like, you're getting the creative idea in your imagination, and you're like literally putting it, you're acting on it and getting productive with it. So, and actually making a creation with it. So really productive there. And then even in the relationship side, the Sun Neptune trine is like unconditional love and compassion for those around us. So like, feeling that can really feed passion in romantic relationships also. So so that energy can like really help take a lot of the edge off the Venus Mars opposition and soften it down and actually feed it excuse me, into productive actions and endeavors. So real good opportunity Monday on that creative expression in relationships or through art. And then also Monday, the biggest of the 4 asteroids series, the mother archetype asteroid, the nurturing energy asteroid of the female archetype, is going into Pisces. And so in Pisces, you're going to get she's going to want to give nurturing through compassion, nurturing through selfless acts, nurturing through connection that's like deep and spiritual, and bringing that out into others. And so real beautiful energy there for that nurturing to like just widen and become unconditional and really go to a higher level. Tuesday is the day that Mercury goes into Scorpio again. And remember, on a personal level, when Mercury is in Scorpio, we become very precise decision makers. We want to get all the information in front of us, and not only in front of us, but like delve into it, research it, investigate it, get down to the depths of what we're seeing before we make a decision. So, Mercury in Scorpio moves slow and deliberately in the decision-making process of the mind. And also, there's a sense that people do not speak as much what they're really thinking and feeling inside. When Mercury's in Scorpio, there's the sense that people are holding things close to the vest. And so like there can be a little bit of distrust and like negative impressions and feeling like, oh, they're holding back secrets. And probably you are too. And just stuff that we really need to still chew over in our mind before we're willing to let it out. So Mercury will be in Scorpio until December 2nd, and will be still in the shadow period of the retrograde for another week or so. So, like, to me, when you think about that too, on a bigger scale, like here in the U.S., once again, using the election as an example, we may not see the end of the challenges to election results and the conceding of the election results by the loser for another week or so yet. On Wednesday, Venus quincunxes Neptune, and that's an interesting one. It can feed like not being realistic about your relationships with your loved ones, like kind of like accepting them and their faults, but kind of like being unrealistic about it, but like almost kind of like, sweeping it under the rug or looking at it through rose-colored glasses or not being realistic about it. And a lot of it has to do with like our own like self-worth issues, like willing to accept something less because we're afraid we may get nothing. So it just is, it almost feels like you have to give more or sacrifice more to get what you want. But then when you get what you want in the relationship, it ends up falling short of what your ideals are anyway. So there can be a lot of disappointment in that. In relationships and can make us kind of withdraw too, like maybe kind of almost like feel like, shy or introspective or withdrawn in that. So just needing to find the right balance of how much you have to give in order to get what you deserve in love and relationships is the challenge of that aspect. Thursday is the day of the exact conjunction of Jupiter, Pluto, Pallas, which, like I said, is really something that we're still going to feel for several weeks and have been already. And the sun is sesquiquadrate Chiron that day too, which is meaning, basically it's an awkward day. It's a hard day to be who you are, who you feel you want to be, finding balance. It's just going to kind of be an odd kind of day that way. Friday is the day Mars goes direct, and like I said, that's all about all of a sudden just really wanting to move forward as an individual, no longer willing to wait for others, that you're going to push ahead with what you want to do and be assertive about it and maybe perhaps create some waves in doing so, create some disputes, arguments, battles while doing so, because of like just this very subjective or even selfish approach to our actions and to our motives. Then comes the new moon. And the new moon is on Saturday at 24 degrees Scorpio. So you need to look at that in your chart, find the house that 24 degrees Scorpio is in your chart, and that'll let you know the area of life where this Scorpio new moon is going to manifest. And it's sextile the Jupiter, Pluto, Pallas conjunction. So it's going to keep that energy going, and it's also going to be a helpful energy to it. So when the moon's in Scorpio, it's in one of the weakest signs that it's in. It's in an intense emotional sign, and it brings up a lot of intense energy. But it's a new moon, and so there's a chance for a lot of new opportunities, and especially with the sextile to Jupiter and Pluto. There is really, that opens up new opportunities, new chances to connect deeply with others, new chances to get into things that you're into really deeply, which will create opportunities. Jupiter is still in fall, so in Capricorn too, and the moon in fall also. So there is a lot of weakness within the planets themselves in the sextile, but at the same time there should be, some new opportunities to start things. They may start slow. You may not have everything you need to get them going in what would be like the system you want set and running eventually, but the opportunities are there. And so, and then, Mars is ruling this new moon. So once again, Mars just stationing direct shows we can move forward now with these opportunities, and we can, take them onto deeper levels. And with Scorpio, once again, I think a lot of it has to do with, did you do a lot of the work of the last 2 or 3 weeks properly, of like purging things in your life that just needed to get out, whether they were people, places, things, ideas, whatever it may be, that just needed to be worked on and purged out. If that is the case, then this is the time where like these new creative energy that can come into that cleared space can really give us the ideas that we want to move forward with, and we can plant those seeds. And then there are going to be opportunities right now for those seeds to take root and start moving ahead. So a lot of like real deep energy there. And remember, like Mars right now is also the ruler of the new moon, is opposite that Venus. So there is a lot of like tension energy that can, get you to act, can get you to, spurred to be moving forward in this. And then, Pluto, which is the co-ruler or has affinity with Scorpio, is conjunct at Jupiter, so it's lending a hand too. And we may find ourselves in that position of personal power where we can really plant something for ourselves in the future, for the future, and move forward. So like I said, look at the house the 24 degrees Scorpio falls into. Like if it's in your 10th house, then it's in the areas of career where, you can move forward, and so on. So real interesting energy there. And that new moon is exact on Saturday. I think it's late on Saturday for the US. So and then Sunday even has some stuff going on too. I mean, it's just such a dense week, Sunday, an interesting mix. Sunday, Venus squares the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And when Venus squares Jupiter, that's just fun. It's basically just having fun. Like indulging ourselves and just doing what we want to do. And it may, we may waste things like under that square. We may waste money, waste resources, waste time. But we are having fun, and it's good for social connections. But what's interesting, you throw in the Pluto there, and that part, especially with all the Scorpio energy going on right now too, kind of like cuts down the amount of social connections to just a few where we really want to deepen them. But it can also cause issues in relationships, no question about it. The Venus Pluto square can be like just real deep issues that come up once again, and they're out there, they're out there in front of you in this relationship, in front of you and the other person, and you have to decide what you're going to do with it, because you're basically recognizing that the relationship is shifting, it's changing, and you have to decide, is it worth, the two people have to decide, is it worth our time? And it can bring you to like incredibly new depths if you're willing to work with the energy. And maybe Jupiter can help do that, kind of ease some of the intensity of the Pluto and Scorpio energy off and be like, we can do this. We've been through things together. We've gone through other sensitive times. We can, face this together. But there are also maybe a lot of people who are like, no, it's time to move forward from this relationship. Now that I see all the debris that's, floated up to the surface, I'm feeling like, it needs to be washed away. And, and it also can give us issues with resources again, not having what we need. Maybe not enough money, maybe not enough assets, not enough resources to do what we really want, which is part of that, kind of saying that with the new moon too. Like, even though we have that sextile, we have the opportunities, both the moon and Jupiter are in weak positions, so we may not have everything we need right away to, get it to the point we'd like to see it. Might have to be a little bit patient and wait for things. Maybe have to wait until Jupiter moves into Aquarius, in a couple months before it can really kind of take off. So a lot of interesting. And then the last thing on Sunday, Mercury is quincunx Chiron too, which is a third hit because Mercury's still coming back through that retrograde phase and is out in the shadow land of the retrograde. So, and that shows once again like this energy that does come up with the Venus Pluto Jupiter square may be very hard to convey in a harmonious or smooth way. Like, the way we talk it is going to be bumpy and awkward, and there's lessons to be learned in both sides. So overall, like, a very, very dense week of energy here this week, and a lot going on, and a lot of decisions still needing to be made about, the final purging of what we need to get out, the final ways that we use our power, and how we're gonna plant that and move forward. All right, let's see, a couple of announcements. So, like I said, the blog is now available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and just search it. If you like the blog, it's a free service, so please pass it on to anyone who you think would be interested in hearing it, and that's the best thing you can do to repay me. I am available for all kinds of readings too, so if you need a natal reading, that's a birth chart reading, or a predictive reading, kind of looking at the next year or so, what's going on in your chart, child reading on your children, horary, which if you have a question, an emotionally deep question you need an answer to, elections for timing, fixed star readings, things like that, all kinds of different readings. I am available. My email is mattthue823@gmail.com. And finally, last but not least, got the beginning astrology course going again. Not doing it as a class live, not doing it as a Zoom or anything live like that. I'm basically doing the class as a lecture, and it's available as a file. Right now, you have to contact me directly and set it up on Dropbox, or I can send you the file. I will get my website republished soon, and then it'll be available as a link off the website. The classes are going to be $25 a class. If you're a student and you can show me student ID, $20 a class. And that's for students who are either college students or high school students that are not over the age of 24 or 25. And you can send it to me via Zelle or PayPal. And this way you can work at the pace you want to work too. And I am saying, when you go through a class, since we're not doing a live thing, you can ask me questions on things that I will share on the next lecture. So the first class is done. It's ready to go. I have the next 3 or 4 pretty much set up to go too. We're going to start with the zodiac, basically, learning the signs and the elements and the modes and things like that. So the first few classes are going to be learning the zodiac and the signs. And it's for everybody, if you want to just learn a little bit more astrology, or if you actually want to someday be an astrologer that can read charts, that's how far we can take it. But the beginning astrology class, it's like the third or fourth time I've started it up. And so it's got a lot of good information there over the years for you. So anyone interested in that, contact me, and we'll get you the file sent over on Dropbox. So it's matthue823@gmail.com. All right, lots of exciting stuff going on in the Astrological Winds universe. Lots of exciting stuff going on in the world we live in. Lots of exciting stuff going on in your life too, because I think it's happening to everybody right now. The age of Aquarius is dawning, and a lot of things need to be moved out to let this new age into us, into the world. All right, until next time, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. And check in with me next week for the astrological weather forecast, and plant that seed under this new moon. Look for that opportunity.